Here's more wrestling news for November 1st, 2022. And we're kicking off today with Bray Wyatt, and fans caught their first glimpse of Uncle Howdy last week. On SmackDown, the mysterious masked figure confronted Bray with a video promo, saying that Wyatt is lying about not wearing a mask and should embrace who he really is. There's still a lot of questions about the Uncle Howdy character, but Fightful Select reports that it was Jason Jordan who put the segment together. Some have speculated that Uncle Howdy could be a returning superstar, with some saying it's Bo Dallas, Bray's real-life brother, who is expected to return to WWE. At this time, details are still sketchy about the plans for Uncle Howdy, but Bray's return to WWE continues to be a hit with fans. At Clash at the Castle, Dominik Mysterio turned heel on his father Ray, attacking the masked legend in Cardiff and joining the Judgment Day. Dominik isn't the only second-generation star making a name for himself, as Hook has been making waves in AEW, and the son of Taz is the reigning FTW champion. Speaking on the Keepin' It 100 podcast, Disco Inferno discussed the two young wrestlers and thinks it's pretty clear which one is doing better. Definitely Dominik Mysterio. Okay, because number one, I heard a little birdie told me, an inside source, that Hook isn't really invested in pro wrestling as you would think. I heard he wants to get into fashion design. But Dominik is invested in wrestling, and he's just getting better, and he's got arguably right now, he's got more heat than anybody on any show. Conan also chimed in, saying that Dominik has probably surpassed Hook in popularity, adding that Hook is very popular. After 2 years of being known as Rey Mysterio's son, Dominik has come into his own as a heel on TV, and the future looks bright for the Judgment Day member. Now in 2016, WWE reintroduced their brand split and created the Universal Championship as a new world title for the superstars on Raw. Despite initial backlash over the title's design, the Universal title has been held by huge names including Brock Lesnar, Bray Wyatt, and Roman Reigns, but now there's been questions about the name. While speaking to Sportskeeda, former WWE commentator Hugo Savinovich spoke about the championship and claimed that Vince McMahon stole the name from Carlos Colon's World Wrestling Council. Vince stole the Universal Championship. If you go back in history, you will see that Vince and WWE stole our Universal Championship. It was the NWA World Champion Ric Flair against the World Wrestling Council, and the winner would be legit the Universal Champion. A lot of people don't know this, and that was the creation of the Universal Championship. So way back we had that, so it wasn't an invention of Vince. While Savinovich is convinced that the name was a deliberate theft by McMahon, many believe that the Universal Championship name comes from WWE and calling their fans a universe, and that a connection to WWC is pure coincidence. 6 years since its inception, the Universal title has become one of the most prestigious championships in wrestling today, but WWE has WWC to thank for the name, according to Savinovich. Back to WWE, as at a recent live event, Natalya and Liv Morgan faced off in a no disqualification match, which ended in a bizarre way. In the closing moments, Morgan hit a splash on Natalya, though the table the Canadian is laid on didn't break, and after being pinned, Natalya got up immediately and left the ring. Some said that Natalya no-sold the spot, but when sources reached out to the former Divas champion, she gave her side of the story. Natalya explained how she did not intend to no-sell the spot and simply exited the ring to allow Morgan to celebrate her big win. Sources added that while table spots are tough in the best of times, this was especially difficult for Natalya as the table didn't break, but it said that the Canadian is doing okay and isn't injured. As we all know, things don't always go to plan in wrestling, and unfortunate spots like these do happen, but one thing fans should know is that Natalya wasn't no-selling the offense Morgan gave her. Last month, Triple H rehired Gabe Sapolsky, who had worked with the game until his release in January of this year. Gabe's departure was one of many releases, all of whom had worked with Triple H, but not only is he back, but he's hard at work. According to Brian Alvarez, Sapolsky, now a talent scout for WWE, was at a recent Defy Wrestling show and was said to be blown away by what he saw. While Sapolsky was impressed, Dave Meltzer made it clear that this wasn't an official assignment by WWE, but that Gabe just happened to be in town. With that said, we can't rule out WWE making an attempt to sign any of the impressive wrestlers from Defy Wrestling, especially if Sapolsky, the former head of Evolve, has given them his seal of approval. Despite what some people have said, WWE is still interested in signing independent talent, as confirmed by NXT head Shawn Michaels last month. So perhaps Sapolsky has spotted a future WWE World Champion. AEW news now, as Tony Khan's first promotion has a huge roster and is home to several former WWE superstars. At All Out 2021, Adam Cole joined AEW days after appearing for NXT, and Claudio Castagnoli made the jump earlier this year, but both men could soon be appearing for WWE again. On Twitter, both men shared a cryptic video featuring fellow WWE alum Tyler Breeze, which showed Prince Pretty calling both men, as well as Xavier Woods. All four men were key players on Woods' Up Up Down Down YouTube series, and it looks like the AEW stars could be back on his show in the near future. Not only did these men face off on the channel, but both Castagnoli and Breeze are former Up Up Down Down champions, a title currently held by Seth Rollins. There would have been a time when the idea of AEW stars appearing with WWE superstars would be unheard of, but this new regime has proven to be more flexible than the last, and expect these four to be sharing the screen again very soon. Last weekend, it was reported that Shinsuke Nakamura will face the Great Muta at Pro Wrestling Noah's New Year's Day event. Given that Nakamura is a WWE superstar, this is a huge match, and we now know more about how it came about. In a report from Tokyo Sport, it's revealed that when the Great Muta announced he'd be retiring in 2023, that Noah immediately named Nakamura as someone they wanted for his farewell tour. Initially, the discussions between Noah and WWE didn't lead to terms being reached, but that all changed after Vince McMahon's retirement. Now WWE is said to be fully behind the idea of Nakamura competing outside the company, with some in WWE joking that this is the forbidden door. Win, lose, or draw, Nakamura vs. Muta will be a huge deal on New Year's Day, and will be one of the several excellent matches in the final run for the Japanese wrestling legend. In August, WWE announced the end of NXT UK, and the mass layoffs began immediately after. Almost all NXT UK superstars were released, with those who weren't being moved to NXT. Fans have already seen the likes of Ilya Dragunov and Pretty Deadly on NXT, and now another UK alum has made their debut. At an NXT live event, Isla Dawn debuted for the US brand, coming up short against fellow NXT UK superstar Alba Fire. Dawn was with NXT UK for the show's entire run, even competing on the final episode, but never won gold. But perhaps that'll change now that she's on the NXT roster. Since Vince McMahon's retirement, WWE has implemented a lot of changes, including bringing back released talent and being more open to working with other promotions. These changes have gone down well with fans so far, and a very subtle McMahon-era rule was scrapped during this week's Raw. In the main event of Raw, referee Sean Bennett's name was announced during the introduction, something that wasn't allowed in recent years under McMahon's regime. The explanation at the time was that identifying the referee would bring the attention of fans to the official and away from the wrestlers they were supposed to be focusing on. Fans on Twitter were quick to recognize the old McMahon-era rule being removed, as the company continues to prove to be much different, with the former CEO now retired. This Saturday, WWE will return to Riyadh for their annual Crown Jewel event, with 7 matches confirmed. On this week's Raw, though, something else was confirmed, and while it wasn't a match, it'll certainly have fans tuning in. It's been announced that Bray Wyatt will be appearing at Crown Jewel, but there is no word yet on what he will be doing on the show. Wyatt has proven to be a ratings hit since returning to WWE, and with plans for Crown Jewel still in the dark, it'll be interesting to see what he does in Riyadh. As a WWE interviewer and correspondent, Kayla Braxton's role with the company is far less dangerous than those in the ring, but this week, the host of The Bump sustained a mysterious injury. Taking to Instagram, Braxton shared a selfie which showed a noticeable bruise on her head, calling it a little souvenir from Vegas, adding that she has no idea how she got it. Braxton certainly had an interesting time in Vegas, as she recently shared her story of being yelled at by an Uber driver for not saying hi, something the driver also didn't do, and while she can't recall how she got the injury, she'll no doubt remember her time in Sin City. Over to Raw now, as this week's show saw a brawl break out between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, which saw several people try and break them up. The entranceway was a sea of people, desperate to keep the two apart, and in the foray, fans spotted NXT superstar Von Wagner. Wagner, the son of WWE alum Bo Beverly, has been a staple of NXT since joining in September 2021, and after his cameo appearance on Raw, perhaps we'll be seeing more of him on the main roster in the not-so-distant future. And we're ending with more from Raw as the show took place on Halloween, and Alpha Academy more than delivered with their costume. Ahead of the Trick or Street fight between Otis and Matt Riddle, Alpha Academy recreated Chris Farley and Patrick Swayze's iconic Chippendale sketch from Saturday Night Live. Unfortunately, the costumes couldn't save either man as Gable, the Patrick Swayze wannabe, was sent through a table during the match. As for Otis, he had a pumpkin placed over his head and took an RKO to lose the match in what was a wild match on this week's Raw. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.